Hello and welcome to everyone. Thank you so much for coming. It's great to see you all, and thank you for taking a time out of your busy day to learn more about what we do at Formbird, and watch us and hopefully participate with us in our motto, which is to turn information into communication. I'm Paul, and I'm host today. If you've got any questions, you can always type if you're shy, but else you can also just interrupt. Now, today we're looking at a feature that David Tuttleby from Cardinia suggested. It's currently in beta. No, it's not in beta. It's in dev, which means it hasn't gone public, so to speak. And it will eventually go into beta where you can play with it or have a go with it or whatever. And the feature is called asset verification. So it's very important because this solves a really big problem in organizations where things sometimes go missing, or, hey, where did we leave that steamroller, which we actually saw happen once. I won't mention the council, but yes, they lost a steamroller and then someone found it beside the road, and it was good because it's been sitting there for a year. So this is a great a feature that we've put in. So Adam is going to talk about that. So just as a reminder, we record every single meetup. So if you miss one or you want to go and see, or don't even bother turning up, you can just watch it on our website. You can look under the resources tab where all the other videos are, depending on what you want to look at. We also have a YouTube video where we timestamp all the information below the video, so you can jump forward and miss this boring bit at the beginning, or jump forward to the more exciting bits that interest you most. So really, I did want to mention one thing. We held an interesting meetup a couple of weeks ago, which was called Formbird at Work. Now, it's not specifically a fleet meetup. It's actually a fleet sort of show and tell, where we're bringing in information or new developments that are not specific to fleet or water, and their overall Formbird improvements. And so we had really great presentation from Grant about map annotations and how they could be used, and what, you know, it's a really exciting thing where you can actually draw on maps. Might not apply to you ever. Mark talked about what constraint-based optimization is. Again, may not be applicable, but it was really interesting. And Adam did a great thing on his integration with the AI for constraint-based optimization. So, Adam, our star, as always, with fresh trims. I'm going to hand over to you.
Thanks, Paul. I haven't met most of the people on this call before, so I might just introduce myself first. So I deal with the support side of Fleet, dealing with all of our Fleet customers. And Paul on the call here, he's the developer, so he actually does all the smart stuff behind the application. So yeah, as Paul mentioned at the start here, this is some functionality that came up as a suggestion from David Tuttleby from Cardinia. So he was talking about a process where they go around annually and inspect all of their assets to verify that they still possess them, so they still actually have them and they know where they are. So particularly around small plant items, so your chainsaws and, you know, whatever else, those things that are more likely to get lost or misplaced or stolen, but also the fleet items as well, the major fleet items as well. So he was kind of talking about a process where you know, they might take a printout of all their assets around all of their depots and all their locations and verify that the asset is there manually. But he was talking about, you know, doing an export or something like that. So I think at the moment they're doing an export out of Formbird FLEET to get that list, and then they go around and verify them. So what this development really is about is bringing that within the application. So you don't have to do that export. You don't have to mess around with spreadsheets. You can just simply click a few buttons and verify that the asset is where it's supposed to be, and whoever's responsible for it is looking after it, I guess. So I'll jump in and share my screen. All right. Can everyone see my screen there okay? Yes? Good?
Yep. Yeah, it's fine.
Perfect. Thank you. So you can see the admin menu here. Yep, perfect. Thank you. So yeah, there's a few different places where we can find these asset verifications to carry them out. So the first is on the admin menu here in the request list. So this lists all the different things you can record, I guess. You can also find them on each individual asset, which I'll show you a little bit later on, and also on the reporting side of it. But I'll start from here at the moment. So I'll go into my request list here on the homepage. This is your admin view of the application. Jump into our request list here. So you can see that we have a whole lot of different requests that are available. You know, you can add ad hoc expenses, you can complete daily driver check sheets, you can create repair requests or service requests. So what we'll look at today is our asset verification. So I'll click on this new asset verification here. And you can see that this opens up a blank template. So there are a few different ways to get your asset in here. We are working on some new functionality around scanning QR codes. So the concept being that you would print out and affix the QR code to the asset, for example, in this case. And that obviously that would be specific to the asset. And scanning that with your mobile device, your tablet or your phone would actually populate this form. Obviously, I can't really do that on a computer very well and demo that. So the other way is to select the asset field here. And I can search from the asset that I want to carry out the inspection for. So I'm going to use my test asset that I like. I'm going to use this Ford Ranger here. So you'll see selecting that asset from the drop down there from the field populates a whole lot of data on this form here. So this is just pulled across directly from the asset itself. And the purpose behind populating this across is just ease of access, essentially. So you can find this key information that you want kind of at your fingertips while you're carrying out the inspection. So, you know, which department and section is responsible for it, who the responsible person is, and who the allocated person is as well. There is some limitations about the assets that are available in this dropdown. So it's only parent assets, if you like. So we kind of have in Formbird FLEET, we have a relationship where you can have a primary asset, if you like, and another asset that relates to it. So you might have your Ford Ranger, but then constantly with your Ford Ranger, it might have a generator in the tray or something like that that always travels around with it. So you might want to create that relationship in the application to know that they work together. So you'd only be able to grab the Ford Ranger in that example. And feel free to jump in and stop me if you have any questions. So yeah, we have all of our data from the asset at our fingertips here. We can save this form at any stage to save our progress. So I'll just save it now. And I can keep filling out my form. So you can see here at the moment, it's in a status of new. So this kind of indicates to the user that, you know, something needs to be done with this. Nothing's been started yet at the moment. So once I start this verification, I'm going to change my status to in progress. That records the date and time that change was made. So when it was started, I can keep saving my progress as I go. And we tried to keep this as simple as possible because we really don't want to have any more steps than you need while you're carrying out this kind of work. So you can see here it's populated a few fields based on my selection of the asset. So the other thing we have in Formbird FLEET is a relationship between an asset and an asset component. So it's kind of similar to my example before about like the Ford Ranger might have a generator that is permanently kind of attached to it or moves around with it. So they might have a parent-child relationship. We also have components, which is kind of can serve a similar thing. An asset component is probably something that's more fixed to the asset. So it might be the tray that's on the asset, for example, something that's fixed to the asset, but maybe added separately. So in this field here, we have any components, any child assets, and we also have the checks that have been configured as well. So you can go down here and say, yep, that's present, or you might want to say past, your own terminology. So you can add a comment in. Just going to copy and paste this down. And maybe we'll say that this has actually failed because there's external damage. So you could say that you might want to use this as an opportunity to identify issues with the asset. So you might want to say that that's failed. There's body damage or something. I can save my progress again. We can also add notes here as well. So I might say, this is my first note about the inspection. So I can type in anything here. It's like just a text editor, basic text editor. To save that note, I just click that little icon again, and then I can add another note. And I can click that icon again. So you can see it's kind of creating a timeline of notes for this particular inspection. We can also add images or files to the inspection. So on your mobile device, you can click the camera and it'll open up the device's camera. It'll allow you to take a photo or upload a photo from the camera roll, or on a computer, a PC, laptop. You can open up your downloads or the files and add a picture of the asset to confirm it, to add it. So you might want to say that in addition to being like, yeah, it is where it's supposed to be, you might want to actually take a photo of it as well and say, yep, the asset's here, it's verified, this is actually here. And you might want to take pictures of any damage or any things of note. And then we've got our verification outcome as well. So we can say it's verified or unverified. So you might say this is verified because we have actually located it. And we can click save again. And then we come back to our status. So now that we've kind of completed the form, worked through it, we can return to our status and change that status. So if there's more work that needs to be done around this verification, you might want to leave it in an in-progress status so you can identify it easily to come back to it. Or if it's all done and complete and you're happy with it, you can change the status to complete. At that point, it records the date and time complete. It records who's completed, the user who's completed it. And it also enables you to schedule the next inspection. So you don't have to think about it so much, and you can, rely on the application a little bit more to tell you when the asset should be inspected again. So you can change that value in months. So inspect again in 12 months, or you might say 11 months. And changing that value is actually changing our next inspection date. You can just modify this directly as well. So you might want to say, actually, you know what, I would rather inspect it at the start of September, say. So you can change that. Lastly, here we've got our auto-generate next verification. So instead of manually going and creating this asset verification like I have in this example, checking this box would mean that on the 1st of September next year, this document would actually create itself in a new status so that you would know to come back to it. And we can save our progress again. So I might pause here and just I'd like to ask you guys if this is a process that you carry out with your fleet at your councils. Anyone? Sandra? Almost in?
Yep, so we are currently using the manual plant inspection system that involves a lot of paperwork. So yep, we can consider looking into the fleet management tool that you're offering. So we would be keen to know if it is available for Android and iOS as well. And my second question would go like, if we have identified a fault or an observation, are we able to keep track of it on a later date?
Yeah, certainly. So all of the Formbird applications, but Formbird FLEET specifically as well, is browser native, if you like. So it works on any device. It's not picky about what it works on. So certainly works on Android devices, works on iOS devices. But we recommend using Google Chrome as the browser would be the only restriction on that, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So my question was basically oriented towards the field workers, because they are out in the field with all the fleet and the plant, and to avoid the additional hassle of them having a laptop, it would be they just taking the photos and do the inspection. And it comes to the people sitting in the office, and they just do a review of their inspection.
Yeah.
If that sounds reasonable.
Yeah, I think so. If I'm understanding the question correctly, yeah, I think this works perfectly on mobile devices. So you could surf it around. So the other thing that is a little bit related to this that I would say is your pre-start checks, or your daily driver checks, as we term them in Formbird. So that's your your daily operator of the vehicle, checking over the vehicle to make sure it's safe and free of damage and all those things, whatever checks you like to configure. That would be the other element that's related to this. And that existing functionality that we have in Formbird FLEET, the daily driver check sheets, has a kind of an actioning process built into it. So you can, create a request out of it, create work orders out of it, and track all of that work all in one place. This is probably at the moment in its current development, it's more of a standalone process.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. Would this, is that what you were talking about? Your daily, your pre-start checks? Is that what you're
exactly.
referring to?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is more like an annual verification to lay eyes on all the assets and ensure that they are where they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
But we have a complete daily driver check and a whole check management part of the application outside of this. And yes, the mobile device side, it's what's called a web app. So on a phone or device, it'll look like an app within that device and fully uses the dialer, the GPS, the camera, everything. So it behaves like an app. So whatever you see here, if Adam was to scale it, it would scale to that look, but it also behaves like an app on a device. So it means that we've got, even on a mobile device, you end up with access to the full application. It's not a sort of crippled version of it.
Yeah.
All right.
How about you up at Nambucca, Ben?
I'm not sure. To be honest, I've only logged on Formbird probably a week ago.
Yep.
I was there at the start when council decided we're going to go with Formbird. So I thought initially I was going to be heavily involved with it, but my role sort of shifted. So quite honestly, I've only just been involved in it for the last week. So I just thought I'm going to start attending these sessions to try and get your head around where we're at. So I have seen the guys using it, the workshop, because they showed me, I don't know if it's a part of the maintenance, sort of part of the application or whatever, but the guys were showing me some photos that they've taken the other day of different damages for the wear and tear essentially on some of the vehicles, how they maintain them inside and out. And I don't know if it was a part of this particular asset verification or part of the service or whatever, but I just seen
so this is new functionality where it kind of is under development at the moment, so you don't have this in the production environments.
Righto.
It's really about these meetings are really about presenting what we're developing and what's new to customers, and wanting to get feedback and input about is this a suitable thing for you guys? What tweaks would you like to it? So it can suit your needs as well as
righto.
Suit all of our council's needs, essentially.
Yeah.
So what you're talking about with the guy taking photos, that could be anywhere, honestly. Like it could be on your daily driver check sheets.
Yeah.
It could be on your work orders, the mechanics capturing that information on work orders while they're carrying out services or repairs. There's lots of different areas in the application to take photos and add images, and really build up that story about the asset.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Do you have a sense if there's an annual inspection process for your fleet up at Nambucca at all?
I don't think we do have anything in place. No.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Cool. Sarah, are you still there? Or are you? Yep.
Yeah, hi, sorry. Just with us, I'm only new to this position as well, so I'm just trying to work out exactly what it is that we need internally. I do believe we have a system in place. I'm not too sure which one it is, and we are having a full audit coming up by the end of this year, so I need to make sure that I've got everything happening. So.
Yeah, understandable.
Yeah.
But apologies, I need to leave this meeting. I've got an emergency that's just popped up, so thank you, but I will watch the recording. So
sure.
No problem.
Lovely to meet you all.
Thank you, Sandra. We'll get back to you next week.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Thanks. See you.
Bye.
I actually did have a question. I know when you said obviously inspect again. How do we get notified, or where does the notification come that actually then tells you, oh, it's time to inspect? Is that some sort of report that you would generate?
Yeah, so there's a few different places where that comes up. So I'll jump around a bit and answer your question. So The first place is we have an asset verification report here. So this kind of lists all of your past completed verifications as well as any new ones. So you can see this is sorted by the date created at the moment. So once we hit the 1st of September 2024, that creation will be initiated, and then it will appear in this list as a new asset verification, essentially that it's due. And it hasn't been carried out yet, is what that new status is telling you. There is also an element here. So Paul and I were discussing this yesterday around notifications and adding notification functionality to this. So on the Formbird, notifications have changed a little bit or evolved a little bit over the last little while. So this new approach that we're taking to notifications is kind of on a per user or per account basis, being able to subscribe to different notifications. So you can see here on my own account, I'm subscribed to notifications around material reorder thresholds reached. So we have a whole inventory system in Formbird FLEET. So if and you can set like a reorder threshold for each material in the store. So this subscribing to this means that I get an email and a browser alert when the quantity available in the store actually reaches that reorder threshold. So that's an example of one of the notifications. Another one here, so we just added this in, is around asset verification inspections due. So once that that document is created, also if I subscribe to this, so if I've got my account here, I just need to select active. So this is adding that type of notifications to my account, so I'll receive notifications about it. So when these are due, I'll get an email to tell me that these asset verifications are due. Does that answer your question, Paul?
That certainly does. That's great. I didn't realize this subscription thing. That's very, very smart.
Yeah, what we were finding is we did have some more hard rules around how email notifications were generated. But what we were finding is that kind of each council had its own requirements around it, or different wants around notifications. So this seemed like a really good, flexible approach, so that, down to the individual user, you can decide what notifications you get and how you get them as well. So you can see some of them here. We actually have a choice. You can get email notifications and browser alerts, so a little pop up in your browser. Or you might choose one or the other. So you might hate emails calling up your inbox, so you might only want to get browser alert notifications. So again, this is functionality that's in dev, not really in our customers' production environments, but it's part of the coming release for us. I'll just jump back here. Go back to the home page, just go on the changes. So we have a whole lot of different reports that are available here. I'll just show you where that report that I showed you before is. So if I search for verifications in our report, you can see we've got 67 different reports going on, and there's a mix there. There's some that are analysis and some that are, providing more in-depth analysis, calculations, that sort of thing. And there are others that are listing documents. So this probably falls into that listing documents category of asset verifications. So you can also create new asset verifications here. We've also got help icons throughout, or help documentation throughout the application. So you can see here on this one, you can see this is about asset verification. So this is kind of something we're working on at the moment. And it's providing all of that information and screenshots about the asset verification process. So there's another element of asset verifications that I'd like to go through, which is actually how to configure them. So if I go back to my example back here, you can see that we've got some checks here, and we've got some a component here as well. So I wanted to talk about how those are populated. I think it's important to cover. So if I go into another asset, for example, so I'll use this asset 2496. There's a couple of elements here. So scrolling around a bit here. So you can see related assets. So back at the start of this demo, I was talking about parent and child assets. So you can see here we've got this asset 20572, which is related to my asset 2496. So 2496 is the parent in this situation, and 20572 is the child asset. So how that's configured is on the child, you select the parent asset that it belongs to, that it's related to. So that's kind of how that's driven. We've got the other element here, which is components as well, asset components. So you can see in this asset components section, we've got a whole lot of different components set up for this particular asset. So you got, warning lights, engines. You can kind of provide as much detail or as little detail as you want. So all of this is optional, but its functionality is available. So that's where the related assets and the components are reflected on the asset verification. So you can see these asset components here. This is another asset verification. And you can also see that related asset there. The other part to this is the checks that appear. So you can see I've got some checks here: appropriate safety equipment is present, clean and tidy, etc. So the other element is, how are those configured? So those aren't fixed; they're configurable per council. So you can put in here what works. You can have nothing in here, or you can have checks as well. So we actually have what we call asset groups in Formbird FLEET. And they, are passenger vehicles, heavy vehicles, buses, that sort of thing. The purpose of the asset groups is to basically capture really specific information about the assets. So to control what you can do on different assets, we have asset group mapping documents. So if I go into my passenger vehicle one, for example, so this drives a lot of what you can do with assets that are part of that passenger vehicle asset group. You can decide what requests you want available. So for instance, one of them here is you can decide whether you want people to be able to add expenses to this particular assets type, for example. You can also add checks that you want. So for every passenger vehicle, you might decide that you want it to be checked when they do the verifications about being clean and tidy, or in your daily driver check. So your pre-starts, you might want to talk, might want all of your operators to check the drawbar and tow hitch for all the passenger vehicles. There's also another layer here where you can specify specific checks for a specific asset. So if it's got some weird, quirky, different thing for my Ford Ranger, I can add specific checks around that. So I could add maybe a daily driver check because it has a generator, so check the generator or something. And we can also add asset verification checks for the specific asset as well. So this is where those checks are being populated back on our asset verification. The other example I've got here is the heavy vehicle asset group mapping. So you can see here, this is got asset verification checks listed here. And so this is how the checks are populated on an asset verification for a heavy vehicle. So for example, this asset verification here, you can see these checks are here, and you can see those components and those related assets. That's pretty much it. Is there any questions or anything you'd like us to go through specifically for what you're interested in fleet land?
No, I don't have any specific questions.
Mohsin?
All good at the moment, but definitely I'll get in touch with you regarding potential demo.
Yep.
If possible.
No problems.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Particularly thank you, Adam. That was very good. And we'll send out a copy of this recording. We shall wrap it up now, unless anyone, Paul, Mark, or Ian, have anything else they want to say. And we'll see you at the next one, which is in October. On this, I beg your pardon. Yes, it'll be in October. I'm not going to tell you the date because it doesn't look like it's right. So, okay. So, but you will be receiving invites for that. And also, I'll send you a copy of this recording as a link next week with the index at the bottom. So thanks, everyone, for turning up, and we'll see you at the next meetup.